is talking about a little thing called Project Bluebeam. But from the standpoint of what are we really talking about? What is really the essence of it all? Well, the essence is putting a spell on you. Well, it's like that in a way. It's full sensory immersion in something that's not real. Illusions, delusions. There's a lot of that going on right now. That's how they sell everything to us. It doesn't have to be about aliens. That's why I think it's really good to talk about Bluebeam, because it's not so much focusing in on whether or not there's going to be a fake alien invasion at the end of all this. It's about examining the opportunities that actually do exist technologically to screw with everybody beyond the old ways of screwing with their minds, which is getting a bunch of highly paid gangsters in the media to peer pressure you and your friends and your family into thinking that lies are truth by saying it over and over again, and using this little thing called consensus to make you feel like you are the outsider, the black sheep in the world, when you really are the majority. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that tonight. Of course, it's plenty of spooky stuff going on, and we'll be doing a lot of that throughout the week. But Jay Meyers, he has he's got a new video out. I linked it in the description on Project Bluebeam, the fabled Project Bluebeam. We'll talk a bit about the famous theory and the probability that it'll be attempted, if not already, and the probabilities for success. That's also another interesting prospect. And in the second half of the show, there will be time for calls and extras. I have some really interesting extras. And then around 8:30, we're going to be hopping off, because then Jay Dyer, okay? So Jay Meyers leaves, and then Jay Dyer comes on for session 4 of 5 for the book club, Mario Puzo's The Godfather. And man, I don't want this book to end. It is really, I don't want this book to end. It's so good. And of course, there's always stuff in there that's really interesting that relates to geopolitics and history, a little bit more of a fuller picture of the history that was going on at the time, the seen and unseen. That's all going on there. But it's a very philosophical book. Obviously, it's very entertaining, very well written. I love it. Very stimulating. Very stimulating. The doctor just turned Lucy Mancini into a virgin again. Literally. Tried to sew her back up because she so I tell you, you had to be along for the ride. Don't worry, in about a week and a half, in about 2.5 weeks, sometime in November, the whole series it'll be all public, so you can read it on your own if you'd like, but you got to be in on it. You got to be in on these live sessions. You really do. All right, so let's see. Let's go and thank our sponsors, BlueMonsterPrep.com. BlueMonsterPrep.com. They have a lot of things there. Nothing that will turn you back into a virgin. Nothing. Blue Monster, you're on your own. Pat and Gina can only do so much. They can't work miracles here. Come on now. They can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But Blue Monster Prep, emergency food, drinking water filtration, gas masks, heirloom seeds, solar power generators. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So good. So grand. We got gold and silver resources on QuiteFrankly.tv. That's QuiteFrankly.gold, actually. We got so much there. Start your holiday shopping on QuiteFrankly.tv's affiliates page. We're going to have a new, we're this close to settling on a coffee, so there's that. That's coming along. And then what do we have this week? Well, tomorrow I will see for the band practice shortened show. We have a date that we're playing in whatchamacallit, in Jersey City on the 4th. Whole bunch of bands that are playing. It's very short sets there, but we're opening up for a TikToker celebrity that Anthony knows. His name is David Michael Frank. We're going to be there. So this week and next week, we're definitely going to have practice just to be able to sharpen up. But tomorrow, I don't know what we do for tomorrow. I was working on something that may have to get pushed into November. But after that, we've got Carol Hughes coming on Wednesday night, the 25th. And we're going to be talking real ghost stories online. She's the host of a show. And we'll all be talking about creepy small town stories as well, especially if creepy small town stories in the middle of nowhere. If you're traveling, like travel stories, that's great. Greg Carlwood will be back on with us on October 26th. On Friday the 27th, we've got Matt, but we also might have a special guest caller calling in. You remember our friend in the audience just turned 100 years old? I think we may be able to interview her for a little while on Friday night. Thought that would be swell. I know Matt would really like that. So there's that. As far as Saturday night goes, October 28th, the Saturday night special, I'm not sure on it yet. I need to make sure that I have the right cast of characters, and it's just not me sitting in here with a pumpkin to carve like a loser. So I have big plans for the Saturday night shows and giving them major facelifts and what they are as a showcase and something really outside of, quite frankly, it should be a special. There should be something that really is distinct about it. So I'm thinking about things that may need a little bit of time to develop, but one way or another, I will keep you abreast of what's going on Saturday. And then next week is going to be great. Kicked off with Rich Barris on Mischief Night. That's October 30th. On Halloween, we've got Dr. Albert Taylor coming back to talk about some of his paranormal adventures, but also to answer some follow-up questions I had about his last appearance here to talk about out-of-body experiences and his astral travels. On November 1st, I just brought on Mr. Bob Mota. Bob Mota. He is highly esteemed he comes with great, I mean, he's an esteemed, how should I say this? Well, the Zells are a big fan of his. Very big. I know about Bob Mota because of Frank and Jim Zell. So, Frank, you got to get this guy on. He's great. He can talk about true crime. He's a big guy. He's coming up in the new media with that, and also he's a really great guy to talk to about the Delphi murders. That's the murders that were going on in the Midwest, about that now it's implicated that it was all Odinism, pagan ritual sacrifice, and how the police are lying profusely to cover it all up. So Bob Mota is coming on with us on November 1st. Chris Ann Hall on November 2nd. Cross your fingers. I would love it for Chris Ann Hall to be in studio. You just don't know. Rolling the dice. One way or another, she'll be on with us, and I have so many things to bring up. We've got comedian Mike Baldwin. This guy's funny, and I followed him for a while, and I hope that a lot of you follow him after this, and he'll be out. That's a Friday night, so hopefully he'll be having a good time with me and Matt, and we'll all just talk about what he's doing and crack some jokes, and then away we go. All right, so that's what's going on for the rest of this week and next week. I've got some big news to talk to you about, but I don't have time right now. Perhaps if tomorrow is a little bit more of a low-key night and we do a little bit of a call-in show, perhaps I can talk about it there. I'm very excited about it. It concerns the future of the show, especially going into 2024, and I'm very excited about it because I love this show. It's my life's work, and I feel like it's a great opportunity for growth and production expansion and independence and stability going into what is going to be a minefield of a year 2024 and beyond. So be on the lookout for that. Keep your ears and eyes peeled. Tomorrow, probably. Okay. Into the grab bag we go. Now, there's some things I need to say. It has to do with the war. Well, first things, this is just something else. Here, take a look at this. Here's a headline. Did you hear about this? Michigan State apologizes for Adolf Hitler image on Spartan Stadium scoreboard. Who let Ilhan Omar in the production booth at Michigan State is what I want to know. Michigan State is apologizing after an image of Adolf Hitler. I just love how the image of Adolf Hitler can show up anywhere and everybody... I just love how the image of Adolf Hitler, tiny mustache man, as Jay Dyer would call him, could just pop up anywhere and everybody will go, ah! I think it's hilarious. You don't have to like the guy to think it's hilarious. Everybody's quick, we have to apologize. Like they showed nudity or something. It's just, there's something about that that's just still funny to me. It's not funny. Multiple images circulating on social media on Saturday show an image of the Nazi leader's face on the stadium's largest scoreboard alongside of a trivia question answer about his birthplace. So it was a trivia? Michigan State said the scoreboard content came from a third-party source. The school will no longer use that source and will update its screening procedures. So this is even more innocent than it sounded like? That it's even more innocent. So it was just a trivia question about where Adolf Hitler was born? Oh, man. That's that's even funnier. I'm afraid that's even funnier. All right. So anyway, on that note, speaking of Ilhan Omar and all the rest of the craziness that's going on right now, I'm sure you've seen it. Here's from Zero Hedge. Pro-Palestinian mob shuts down Minneapolis street, terrorizes motorists. If you were wondering why the pro-Palestinian protests in the U.S. today are starting to look a lot like BLM riots of 2020, it's probably because they are made up of the same people with the same political agenda. No doubt about it. Minnesota has one of the concentrated Muslim populations, the most concentrated in the U.S., but it also as well known as a Democrat stronghold. Palestinian protests across the country are predominantly banned by far-left groups like Antifa, or manned by far-left groups like Antifa, seeking to attach themselves to minority issues as an excuse to wreak havoc. The political alliance is perhaps one of the most unhinged in the recent memory, given that Muslim Sharia culture runs contrary to the majority of progressive beliefs. Now, this is something that you could tell anybody at any point. Now, since we're going to be talking about illusions and projections tonight, I did want to do a little hit on the latest with the war. And when I say the war, I mean there is really no differentiation in my eyes from what's been going on in the streets here since, in an escalated fashion since 2012. And then, of course, throughout 2020, and then the war in Ukraine, it links into that. It's all the same people. It's all the same money. The 2020 elections, COVID, the Great Reset, it's all the same thing, and it is, at least for the time, expanding. If you haven't noticed, these wars, they kind of expand. They consume resources. They consume land. They consume people's property. They consume civil rights, whatever, and then they can kind of contract a little bit. And then their resting position is bigger than it was beforehand, and then it digests, and the digestion process is a normalization process, and then it gets hungry again and expands, and well, that's what we're doing right now. And apparently there's over 100,000 people, some estimated, marching in London, pro-Palestine and all this stuff. And I don't really care who you're marching for, because the real issue here is that I have no love for Israel. I have just as little love for its neighboring Arab states. I have no obligation to. I don't give a shit. And see, this is why I also another reason why I don't give snake women like Ilhan Omar brownie points for any of their forked tongue statements. Never. Just not getting into bed with a snake. And whereas it is 100% true to say that it's not our war, that is buried under several layers of other facts and obfuscations. Number one, millions of Middle Eastern transplants have now been relocated around the Western world and put into places like Minneapolis and elsewhere. And for them, it will always be a very personal war. Okay? And so we now have to live around them when they are triggered into demonstrations and protests, and it also acts as a reminder of how little they care about being a part of our culture. At least come on now. It's not quiet about it at all. It's just all right there. Number two, even when we say it's not our war, even that needs context, because you and I who just care about completing a respectable day's work and leading a quiet, happy, healthy life as possible, it is not our war. We did not want it. We had no hand in it. It is, however, very much so the responsibility of those who own our governments and the ones who have had their beaks in the shit in the Middle East since the beginning, especially with Israel. So there's just so much going on right now, and this is the best one about it. Everybody's talking about things are running contrary to progressive beliefs, and what are the bedfellows that are being made with Antifa and Muslim Sharia protesters and this and that. I'm like, well, hey, I've been talking to you about these people for a long time. I told you they're the rooftop dancers in Independence Day. That's what's going. That is what the modern day, mashed potato brain progressive is all about. Take a look at this. This one was widely debated across Twitter and elsewhere today. It's an article written by Konstantin Kisin. It's called "The Day the Delusions Died." A lot of people woke up on October 7th as progressives and went to bed that night feeling like conservatives. What changed? Now, obviously, not possible, just because of a war, new conflict breaking out in Israel amongst them and the Palestinians, or Hamas, I should say, in particular. And then there is so much on display across the world about who is rooting for who and who denounces whom and all this other stuff. And that does not make someone a conservative or a liberal. No. I think in the two-party delusion that we live in right now, that might make sense, because there really is no difference between conservatives and liberals aside from what kind of social issues they stand on. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. They're all for central power. They're all for devalued money. They're all for, internationalism in the worst brand. And of course, getting in bed with foreign nations and getting entangled in all of their problems, and in many ways being the start of some of their more recent problems. So this is what they're talking about, the day the delusions died. And we don't have enough time to get into all this stuff, but it is a matter of delusion. You remember not too long ago in Minnesota, we were reading about all of the gay rights activists who are very upset that their town council has been taken over completely by Muslims, and suddenly they don't want any gay pride parades, and they don't like they are banning the flying of the gay pride flag, and they're like, wait a second, we stood by you. It's like, idiots, dummies, rooftop dancers in Independence Day. Where's your foresight? Nowhere. With their foreskin, it's gone. Remember what I said about intersectionality. Well, here's another one. Here's another one for you. The left has really let us down. Why many American Jews feel abandoned. Again, foresight gone with foreskin. The left has really let us down. Why American Jews feel abandoned. Well, I mean, intersectionality, ladies and gentlemen, it's that concept that everybody on the progressive left has a gripe. They represent a very small slice of the pie, an obscure slice of the pie. I'm a boy who thinks I'm a girl. I'm somebody who thinks I'm a this. I represent this foreign interest. I represent this special interest. On our own, we are a fraction of a percent of the population, but if we band together, we can defeat those terrible nationalists, those awful American patriots that just want government out of their lives a little bit more. And what happens when that happens? What happens when they are able to cobble together a majority in some way? Well, then, eventually, when the revolution is over, as we have seen many times over in world and domestic history, the revolutionaries will start prioritizing their own gripes. And they will crown each other kings and queens, and then they will kill everybody else that stands in the way of getting their comeuppance. And, of course, anybody who could see this coming a mile away is now sitting back and going, okay, now what? Now what? That we have sat back and we have cheered the nobility of importing tens of millions of people who didn't actually want to come into the liberal West, the secular West, or the Christian West. One thing or another, however you look at it, as a secular civilization or a Christian civilization, none of that jives with what lives on outside of our borders. None of that jives. At least in the Western Hemisphere, people coming up from Central and South America are mostly Christian, mostly Catholic. You can work with that, even though they don't care about anything else that our Constitution has inside of it. What do they know? All they know is that life is probably shittier where they are, and that there is free food and free money a couple of thousand miles north, and they don't know that we actually don't have any money left, and it's all being put on a credit card. What do they know? What do they care? They don't. So this is just what's going on all over the place, and whoever has foresight is obviously in the minority, at least in the media. At least in the media. But I want to show you something. For those of you who don't watch the same movies that some of us do, here's Independence Day, the rooftop party. Here's a bunch of people going up to the rooftop to welcome the aliens. There you go, our stripper friend. Please take me away. Welcome. Make yourselves at home, aliens. There you go. They love it. Thank you. Welcome, aliens. Welcome. You must leave now. Yeah, don't worry about that. So now, all of a sudden, oh, we're about to be welcomed. Oh, isn't it cozy? The nice blue light, blue beam. It's so pretty. Right to the very end, dumbasses. Right to the very end, dumbasses. I don't know, something's not right. That's the sound of common sense. That's the sound of what the hell did you expect? Oh, the rooftop dancers. What are you going to do? All right, we'll be right back. Jay Meyers on the other side of the intro.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's
Welcome, ladies and gents. Welcome to a new week of fun. Hold on a second. Okay. So, I just gave you a little bit of a literal blue beam right there. I got to, when we talk about blue beam, though, we are usually talking about the unleashing of a technology to coerce people into action. Now, it's the ultimate action. It's the consolidation of world power in a way that the League of Nations and the UN could never do in its current form. So it's but like I said before, it has been done and is being done right now in a very low-tech kind of a way when you compare it. Already, when you think about it. Well, you know, whether we are talking about the need to quarantine the planet because of the flu, Operation Flu Beam, or impending doom brought on by climate boiling. You remember that? Remember that? What's it called? Global boiling? Global climate boiling, they called it. And, well, that's not... That's besides the point. It's all about creating that kind of illusion that we are on the brink and something bigger than all of us has arrived and we need to band together or else it's just all done. It's all done. And whether we're talking about that, we're talking about these wars, even with these wars where there's no doubt that people are dying, that buildings are getting leveled and there's a lot of money being wasted. Who is winning? How did it begin? Whose side should we be on? Is there even a side to be on? You know, whatever the issue is, we are often dealing with tightly controlled projections that are meant to limit choices and opinions and coerce people into actions that usually do not benefit them or the world at all. But what happens when media can't peer pressure you? That's what I want to know. What happens when the media can't peer pressure you into believing that a lie is the truth anymore? What happens when nobody cares about North Koreans or Iranians anymore? What happens when only 2% of people are willing to take new COVID boosters? You know, how do you up the ante? That's the basis of Project Bluebeam theory, the use of technology to forge what some would say even a supernatural experience for a mass population to go and spin that into, I guess, some kind of a form of a consent to act on the world's behalf. Because whether it's another massive war or whether it's a confrontation with a galactic neighbor, there is a global reset on the side of all of this. They have told us about it. It's coming our way. Well, coming back tonight to discuss the theory and more is our friend Jay Meyers of Jay Meyers Documentaries. He has been pumping out thought-provoking documentaries on everything from the occult filmmaking, the secrets of the royal family, and just last week, his latest on the fake alien invasion, Project Bluebeam. The link is in the Rumble. Link to his Rumble account is in the episode of this the description of this episode. Welcome back, Jay Meyers. How you feeling, buddy?
Hey, man, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, you know, I feel like you come back once a year around the spooky time of year, and that's it.
Yep, we made another trip around the sun, man.
That's how you know a year has passed. Some people wait for December 31st. I wait for Jay Meyers to come back.
Yep, that's right.
So, you know, Jay, I'm just going to throw this out at you. Regarding your latest work, fake alien invasion, Project Bluebeam, a lot of symbolism, but also a lot of real stuff going on there. And I'm just going to ask the question that I saw one of your commenters ask, and that is, fake, everything seems fake these days. I mean, they seem like they fake and obfuscate everything else. Why not this? So go ahead and tell us a little bit of those who have never gotten the soup to nuts version of what Project Bluebeam is. Tell us a little bit about how the theory got started and how it was mainstreamed.
Yeah, so the idea is actually that the government would create a fake alien invasion, which would be used to basically consolidate power between governments and create an off-planet threat which we would have to unite as a species to defeat, which is sort of that's the dream that the Illuminati has had for a long time, right? The one world government. You know, George Bush Sr. said, talked about the New World Order, this idea that we don't hear that as much. Now they call it, geopolitical unity or whatever. They don't say the New World Order anymore, but if you look at the WF, that's what they want, basically, is one centralized authority that would have power across governments. And you see that with how they try to put people in positions of power that are on there. They're part of the WEF leaders or whatever. And you also see that with how a lot of times, sometimes even enforcing COVID measures, it wasn't troops from that country. It's like UN troops, foreign troops that come in to actually enforce international laws. So that ultimately is what they want. And if you go back, Sir Jay Meyers, he's the guy who talked about it. He's a Canadian journalist and lecturer, and he wrote a lot of other things, but he's mostly known for Project Bluebeam, and it's written in French. He lived in Quebec, so he spoke French, and he popularized the idea that the government not only had the technology but wanted to create a fake alien invasion. But he didn't come up with the idea. There's a classified CIA document came out. It originally came out in 1953, and it was submitted by the U.S. Director of the Central Intelligence, Walter B. Smith, and it details how UFOs could be used as psychological warfare. So this is sort of a card that they've had up their sleeve for a long time, and the technology is just now catching up to their plans.
Well, right there, that is an indication that the UFO phenomenon is controlled in many ways by the government itself, because you can't say, obviously the writing and the idea of UFOs can be something that is used in a psychological operation against people, but it's more so you need to be able to make sure that these things are seen, and if you're not in control of them, then how can you use it effectively in any way to shape a narrative?
Yes, the CIA has admitted in a tweet. They brag about this. This is how they brag about spending their tax dollars. They admit in a tweet that they said, by their calculations, over 50% of the UFO sightings in the 50s and 60s were them. I can show you that tweet. Yeah. I was like, what? You're just bragging about that? But yeah, so if they're already experimenting with that as far as back then. And now, you know, with the technology that they have, I'm going to get into this a little bit, but the holographic technology that they have now is so advanced that they can make images in the sky of UFOs. And Janet Morris is actually, she's worked for the government creating these type of weapons, and specifically in psychological warfare. And they call them non-lethal weapons. So the idea behind non-lethal weapons is basically anything up to the point of killing someone. So a lot of that has to do with creating auditory hallucinations, voices inside someone's head. Now, they say, okay, well, this is going to be used to get combatants to lay down their weapons, right? They actually call it the voice of Allah sometimes, because it was created theoretically to convince, that specific one was created to convince Muslims to give up, basically. But they can do it with anything. And they actually have advertisements in other countries where literally, like, you walk beside a billboard and it speaks to you.
I didn't know that. I've seen a lot of hyper reality videos out there. I know that in Vietnam, when our PSYOP programs were being, our first generation PSYOP programs in warfare were being created there, that they were doing a lot of that kind of stuff in the jungles too, where they were projecting the sounds of either, I mean, what were supposed to be the spirits of the dead, things that were really trying to get into the psyche of the, you know, at least the traditions and the folklore of the people around there. So we know that has been, and that's the one thing I liked about what you did with this 24-minute video, which we are going to show after this show is off air on the network programming on quitefrankly.tv, is that not only did you do a great job documenting the evidence that shows this particular form of warfare has been considered viable in the past, but you have also collected a good amount of published works that show that the technology definitely exists for all of this stuff. Now you had the hologram, audio. What is that? Audio. There's something about lasers that was able to deliver audio. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, that's the voice of God technology. That's it uses pulse modulated microwave radiation to create voices inside someone's skull. So that's what, and you'll see this in the documentary. There's a guy in the library. The library is completely quiet, and he has a thing. He will direct the sound to one particular person in the library, and no one else but them can hear it.
Well, you know what? Let's do that right now. I have that clip ready to go. It's about 2.5 minutes long, but I think that this would really be nice to spin off of. So let's jump to that clip. This is from Jay Meyers' recent Project Bluebeam, the fake alien invasion, on his Rumble channel. Hold on one second. Here we go.
Okay.
Another technology that could be used to create the appearance of a spectacular alien invasion is voice-to-skull technology. First developed in 1962, voice-to-skull technology, or V2K, allows for the transmission of audio signals directly into the recipient's head. It is described by the Department of Defense as a neuroelectromagnetic device, which uses micro-transmission of sound into the skull of persons or animals by way of pulse-modulated microwave radiation. These induced sounds are not audible to others nearby. The device would be used for psychological operations, creating a seemingly divine voice commanding the developed decades ago. How far might it have advanced in secret?
Now, Jay, I just gotta say, listening to that, and hearing, obviously that's Jesse Ventura on his show that was live. I don't know. It feels like 15 years ago at this point.
Man, that was a great show.
It really was. It really was. But even Jesse's kind of taking the bait on some really ridiculous scams I can't believe he's done. So anyway, I would say,
well, nobody's perfect.
No, nobody's perfect. And he's getting older too, so you never know what's happening there. But when he asks, is this being used domestically right now? And of course, right now is years ago at this point. The first thing I think about is these new types of drugs that are finding their way onto the streets from coast to coast. They're like the zombie drugs, the trank stuff, whatever, and the level of schizophrenia on the streets and everything else. I start thinking about the way that I don't know, our environment is just so toxic in many ways, as far as how everything is contaminated a little bit with nanoparticulates and you name it, however that all can be used. And if this can be employed in some way, I mean, what kind of test subjects could they can use anything, especially the homeless, hundreds of thousands on the streets. You can just do whatever you want to them, and they are acting crazier and crazier.
Oh, absolutely. And we know, if you look at MK Ultra, they burned almost all the MK Ultra documents. But what little we have that remains, we know, and through MK Search, MK Naomi, they were experimenting on unwitting American citizens. They were drugging sometimes unwitting American citizens. And all this was being done as an experiment. They were observing what happens, basically. Operation Midnight Climax, it's just exactly what you would think it is. They literally had prostitutes that worked for them. They would be sitting behind like a two-sided mirror, and the prostitutes would drug these people. These people had no idea that they were part of a government project. They had no idea. And they would be observed. And literally, they even put in a little porta potty in the room so the guy could sit there all night and watch this happen. And that was what your tax dollars are paying for, folks. But anyway, yeah. So we know for a fact that they have done tests on citizens. So absolutely. I bet they are. I bet they're just testing drugs on the street and then just observing what happens. Well, yeah, they could absolutely be testing this. And another thing it reminds me of is this Neuralink. Because that opens up a whole different world of possibilities, if they can convince people to take that.
Well, when we talk about aliens, that's when everybody starts rolling their eyes. But when you really get beyond that, the idea that in this case there would be no, actual aliens, but B, what would be necessary to make it? Well, it's been there for a while. You covered also in there, this is something we've talked about on the show, but it's been a long time since it came up, because usually when it comes to Cuba, we're talking about weather warfare that was employed to try to take some crop damage to Castro by drawing rain away. While we were, talking about the Vietnam with psychological programming, we were also employing some of the first generation weather warfare techniques out there too. Well, in the Western Hemisphere, around Cuba, whereas we were flooding the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Vietnam, we were actually drawing vital rain sources away from Cuba to kind of starve their sugar crops out there. But not only that, you covered a little bit more holographic ideas that were being floated to try to stir things up in Cuba as well. Can you talk about that?
Yes, this is Jacques Vallée. In the interview in the documentary, Jacques Vallée talks about how this is all declassified. There was a plan to use surface a submarine outside of Cuba, and use holographic projections to create the second coming of Christ. And they were either going to do holograms or they were going to do basically fireworks. It's like they have a fancy word for it, but it's kind of like fireworks combined with an auditory thing. The idea was convince them long enough, because they're Catholic, that the second coming of Christ is there. The idea actually was that it would overwhelm their communication systems. and then they would be able to do an invasion that way. So this is something it's really not as far-fetched as it sounds, and we have the government has the technology. And if you imagine that was back then, they've got a lot more advanced technology now. And people are like, well, yeah, it would have to be across the world. But the idea is they're going to project different things in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So if you could convince, people that there is a UFO invasion, then you could sort of unite the world that way under one centralized government authority. And it doesn't have to be complete. Just each country cedes a little bit of power, and a little bit becomes a little bit more, and before you know it, you're not living in a sovereign country anymore. You're living in a country that's controlled.
Well, let me ask you this, because in your in this video as well, you lined a few things up that I thought were pretty interesting, and I want to know if it reflects a personal point of view of yours. But you had mentioned that woman before who was in the program to develop these non-lethal, almost like active denial systems. What was her name again?
Carol Morris, Janet Morris. Sorry,
Janet Morris. Yeah, and you're talking about how these laboratories that were creating these weapons, creating these technologies, were around the southwestern, south by southwest United States, somewhere around the
Phoenix,
border, around Phoenix.
Yeah.
And then, of course, right afterwards, there we have in the late 90s the Phoenix Lights. The mid to late 90s, the Phoenix Lights start, and I remember hearing all about that, and it was covered in waves. First, it was a little bit of a local phenomenon, then it couldn't be contained, and a lot of people have a lot to say about that, whether or not it was a massive black mothership object in the sky, or, from what I have to imagine, you are positing that there's a possibility this could have been a test of those types of those holographic systems right there around the same area in the country where these technologies were being created.
Yeah. So the idea is, I forgot, it's in the documentary, but there's a military base that's around Phoenix, and this is where they test a lot of these non-lethal weapons. And people saw lasers in the sky before they saw supposedly a UFO or whatever. So the idea is that they picked Phoenix to test the holographic projections, and there was one in Mexico City too. To test the holographic projections, and it made, I remember too, it made national news, the Phoenix Lights. So that's the idea, was that there were several UFO sightings that occurred out west like that, and they were saying, well, is it just a coincidence that it occurs near a place that's known for testing this type of technology? But you saw, I was watching your show just before I came on, and you were showing that clip from Independence Day where everybody was coming up to celebrate. I think it would be like that. I think it would actually, I mean, you saw how everybody went along with the COVID thing. I think a lot of people would go along with it. I think that people want something, man. The economy's not doing great. The country's, it's not doing so great. We're living on a credit card. We're living on borrowed money. I think people want the next thing. They want the next big distraction. I just hope they make it good.
Well, that's the whole thing there. There's got to be something physical about it all. And I think that's where a lot of people, even if they don't look into this stuff and they're not really interested in even just letting their mind run wild with because at the very least, I love looking into these stories just because I feel like it's a really great test and exercise for the imagination, what's possible, and just have some fun with it. But this goes beyond that at a certain point, where we are looking at a world government apparatus, or an emerging world government technocratic apparatus that is really, they are searching for the next big thing. It's not just that people want the next thing. They're searching for the next thing, because we're getting sick of the rogue nation leaders of the world. We're getting sick of all the threats that we've been told we need. I mean, I actually think in the situation we're in right now, Jay, that that the threat of nuclear nuclear war is really, I almost feel like the deterrence of that is so ridiculous. Everybody's nations are so intermingled, and migration has thrown populations and cultures all over the place. So it's not even like if you bomb a country, you're just bombing your enemy. It's like you're bombing all of your people too. It's like everybody's all over the place, and the world is in such chaos. I'm almost looking at nuclear deterrent as something that is less and less viable. So, I mean, where do we go from there as far as people are going to want physical proof of that? I'll put it to you this way. Oh, yeah, well...
Yeah, you're bombing your customers.
Exactly. but the other thing is there, too, is to see something in the sky and to also be able to see something right in front of you and be able to touch something is totally different. It'd be a lot easier to tell people, hey, these are some of the aircraft that the government's been working on. It's not that hard to put an airplane that nobody has seen overhead. Just over the weekend, we had an F-18 fly over my town. It was landing somewhere. I don't know what the hell it was doing there. Everybody, we live right next to Westchester County Airport, so we live with the constant droning of 737s flying overhead at low altitudes all day. That sound doesn't even do anything to us. This was completely different. A fighter jet overhead, everybody is looking up. Everybody's talking about it for a county or two over. So it's not very hard to say, well, that's something we haven't seen before, but it doesn't have to be alien, So where the hell's the physical proof going to come from?
Right. Yeah. But do you need physical proof? Was there physical proof of COVID? Not really.
No.
If you just create a big enough boogeyman, people will go along with it. But no, you're absolutely correct. Maybe they don't need holograms at all, because if you have experimental aircraft that are big enough and dramatic enough, you could do it that way. And if that's what we like, they say the technology that the government has is like 30 years more advanced than what we have right now. So if you imagine what the technological achievements that have happened in the past 30 years, if you imagine that, look at what we have now projected out 30 years, who knows what they would have. And that's not including all of the billions of dollars, trillions maybe, that they're spending on black budget technology development, black budget projects that we have no idea about. $1 trillion goes missing from the Pentagon. We have no idea. What are they doing in the secret deep underground military bases that they've got scattered across our country and around the world too, in Australia and other places? What are they doing down there?
Great questions. And I always forget about that whenever I'm looking at the obscene amount of federal land west of the Mississippi that should not be. Completely unconstitutional for the federal government to own that much. I usually joke, but like the state of Nevada is like not even a thing. Most of it is federally owned land. And
what is it, like 90-something%?
It's ridiculous. You can find federal land maps where like it blotches out all federally owned or controlled land in red. And west of the Mississippi, it is just like awash in red. And when you look at that, you think about, okay, national parks, deserts, nature preserves, maybe a few military bases in there. But you never, you often forget about what might be going on underneath the surface.
Underground.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, we know, it's already declassified that they've built underground facilities into some of the mountains. I forgot what mountain it is, but they have an entire underground facility that they can evacuate all the members of Congress to in case of an emergency. So it's not out of the question at all. And we know that they have these deep underground military bases, and I believe that they connect probably with tunnels, across the country.
Well, you had brought something up before, and that is about the projection of technology going into the future, 30 or so years. About 5 years ago, as I put the federal and public land surfaces and subsurfaces map on the screen, look, Alaska is all taken too. About 5 years ago, the Modern War Institute on YouTube uploaded a lecture that was delivered by one Dr. Charles Morgan, and this was a lecture that was delivered at West Point, so to cadets at West Point. So it's a pretty official presentation. We're also going to put that in the after hours programming tonight, mixed in with your documentary as well. And in it, Charles Morgan discusses, with great excitement, mind you, the ability. Here are some of the things. I took a couple of the points there. He discusses the ability to, number one, send motor function from one human to another. That means remote-controlled human beings. Number two, he talks about brain-to-brain interfaces and the incoming ability to interface with other brains without actually penetrating the physical skull. So we're talking about remote control, transmission of either telepathic thought or whatever the hell else. Another, among many other things, the modification of memories. That means, Jay, not only the implantation and transfer of memories, but also the erasure of memories. And, you know, if you're talking 30 years, I think it may be somewhere between 50 and 100-year Head Start rule that is in effect here. And if that is the case with this as well, then the fact that this is technology that they are comfortable disclosing on a YouTube video in a public lecture, if that is what they're comfortable disclosing now, then what they are actually in possession of is probably far more horrific. And secondly, I think that would also add a lot to the believability of what you're talking about here. I think the average person is thinking they're going to look up and see a pixelated version of Jesus in the clouds, and this may be a lot more of a full sensory experience, complete with voices, thoughts being broadcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's terrifying. I'm going to watch that lecture, actually, because I haven't seen that. But yeah, what you're talking about it's terrifying. It's almost like induced schizophrenia when you think about it.
Oh, hell yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
It's, yeah. But yeah, that could absolutely happen. And yeah, your people are assuming that it's going to be something where, like, it's something over New York City or whatever, but that wouldn't be very effective if you think about it. What would be more effective is if they had a way, like you said, to actually put it into your head, like implant it in your head, and a lot more people would believe it that way. It would be a lot more believable. The idea that they can modulate your memory, that's crazy. I have not heard about that. So like I said, I'm going to watch that. I'm going to watch that video.
It's nuts. And I'll tell you that is the least of it. There's other amazing presentations that they're talking about how they've gotten to the point where they can actually store moving images in bacteria and actually have the bacteria reproduce itself with the images inside of pretty much the genetic code of the bacteria. So whenever a bacterium had, split and multiplied, inside of it, these moving, very basic moving images of like a horse galloping was able to be reproduced as well. But they have found a way to store memory in biological material. And like I said, if you can access this stuff on YouTube, Jay, what the hell? Now, with Manast's book...
So can I ask, can the memory be transmitted, like if another person gets the bacteria or something? Is that what you're saying?
It could be. Or it could just be, it could also just be a really interesting way of hiding it. It's one thing, everybody's always looking for sensitive materials on hard drives or whatever. What if you can hide thousands of terabytes of material in a tree? Who knows?
Like data collection.
Oh yeah, I mean, they know what they're going for. I mean, sometimes the experiments can seem silly and pointless to us, but usually the silly, pointless experiments are proving one microscopic piece of a larger puzzle. So yeah, but so back to Manast and the book. Where has that gone? I heard he died not too long after the book was published. What was going on with that?
He died a mysterious death. So after the book was published, things kind of took a nosedive for him. The Canadian government, he was homeschooling his children. They accused the children of not getting a good education. They basically took his kids from him legally, and then he, for some reason, was arrested. The day after he was arrested, he died of a heart attack. And for those of you who don't know, the government has, and they've actually bragged about, this is open, this is declassified, they have a heart attack gun, a gun that can create a heart attack. I've got the clip of them talking about it. in Congress in one of my documentaries. I think it's the one about Stanley Kubrick. Yeah, and it's like a heart attack. They call it a heart attack gun. It shoots a dart into somebody's body, then induces a heart attack. So Manasseh died of a heart attack a day after spending the night in jail. Who knows if he was killed or not, but certainly suspicious. You know, it seems like people that speak out, oftentimes they meet a very mysterious end. So that's what happened to him. But no, for people that think it's out there, I mean, whenever technology comes out, they're going to push the limits of what they can do. So if you think about in the 30s when everybody had a radio, what they do, Orson Welles did that fake alien invasion, basically. War of the Worlds, a War of the Worlds broadcast, which is a historical sort of radio broadcast in the world of radio. And a lot of people freaked out. Now, they did say it was going to be a stage radio presentation, but for a lot of people tuning in, they had no idea. And people believed it. It got a lot of people very upset. And so, you know, whenever technology comes out, they push the limits of what they can do with it, and they see how far they can go. Who knows? Maybe that was a test even back then.
I think that's the third thing. I think you'll really enjoy tonight's after hours programming, Jay, because that is the third video that I sent over to the guys at the network. It was yours. It was the West Point presentation that we were just talking about, Charles Morgan, and the third one is an episode of James Corbett's podcast that I've put on the network a couple of times. It's called How to Fake an Alien Invasion. I think you are going to really, really like that one if you haven't already seen it. It talks a lot about War of the Worlds broadcast in the 30s and all of the research, all the money, the grant money that was put into researching the effects of that media on the public by the Rockefellers and beyond. You really got to listen to that. But, you know, I was listening to the heart attack gun. I remember that one, not because I was there. That was I think it was in the middle of the church committee in 1975 that they revealed the heart attack gun. And I think that Sidney Gottlieb of MK Ultra was a part of developing that in some way, because the toxin that they used for the heart attack gun to actually deliver the lethal dose was some kind of shellfish toxin. So there is a strange MK Ultra link to the heart attack gun itself. But when it comes to Manasseh, you know, you and I were talking a little bit before, and I'd like to just say that you had brought up Albert Pike before we had gone live, and that was something that was interesting. I think an interesting link between he and Manasseh, because whereas Albert Pike and the alleged blueprint for 3 world wars, whether or not that letter was written by him, which we said it's very contested, and we wrote a blog about it, but between Pike and Manasseh, there's really a lot similar between them, because whether or not Pike wrote the letter to Mazzini and whether or not Manasseh actually was really in the know as to what was coming and what was available, both published works cannot be discounted for their accuracy, both in the trajectory of world events and also the trajectory that developed technologies has taken in the decades that has since passed. So that's really what I think is most worthy about this subject matter, is that the biggest problem or biggest mistake a person can make is saying this is what's going to happen when. But you know, the real question is it possible, and what are the elements that make it possible? And you laid it out very, very convincingly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they both kind of had the same general idea, the idea that there's going to be an international crisis which will be used to unite the world, basically. And Albert Pike was saying it will be used to basically exhaust the resources of the nations in the world so that they can be united together under one power. I think that's similar to what Manasseh was saying. And you're right, it's not like they're Nostradamus or anything. They're just looking at what is going on and projecting into the future what could happen or what might happen. And in that sense, I think that they're both very similar and both possibly correct.
Well, then I have a final question for you, Jay, and it's a big question to me that I've never really had anybody answer for me, and that is, why would they want to do it? I mean, we know, yes, create a galvanizing event that merges the world, but then what? I mean, the aliens just go away at that point. The fake Jesus. Does fake Jesus tell everyone to obey Klaus Schwab, and I'll be back in another 2,000 years?
And eat the bugs.
Yeah, eat the bugs. I'll be back in 2,000 years again. Like, there would have to be a residual Wizard of Oz scam to keep the illusion in place. No, it can't just be one thing, and then, all right, now that you guys are combined, we'll go away now. I mean, what? It can't just be one event. It has to be something that stays behind. I mean, you're talking about everything that's been thrown at us in just the last 5 years alone. You have the crisis. You have all of the solutions. You have the that Hegelian kind of dialect that goes on. But then you have the what Yuri Bezmenov would call that normalization feel. That last phase where we are led into the new normal, and the chaos kind of subsides, and we accept a new standard of living, which is obviously lower than before. Well, what is going to be the new standard of living after the alien catalyst? They can't just go away.
Yeah, what do they want to do? I think they want to create some sort of Elysium where they've got the technology that's been developed, for centuries or whatever, and they're way more advanced than us. They, the elites live a completely disconnected life from the average people. I don't mean disconnected in like a spiritual or that kind of sense. I mean literally, like legally and financially and every other way. They are a complete different class, and maybe they are living off planet. Maybe they want to do that with the technology. Maybe that's part of, they want to put a chip in everybody's brain. If you don't have the chip, then you're killed in some way. You die in the war, or you die from artificially created famine, or whatever they want to do. I think they want a much more, we know they want a much more controlled world. They want a world where everyone's in an electric car. They shut the electric car off if you say the wrong thing. They cut off your money if you say the wrong thing. You're only allowed to travel once a year. You can only meet once a month or whatever. And everybody's life is sort of controlled in some sort of little nanny state. And if you're one of the elite, then you live a completely different life. And freedom, there's just going to be a premium on freedom. We have to make sure that freedom is our number one thing that we want to protect.
I'm with you on that one, Jay. So what are you working on next?
I hadn't planned it out. I want to do something about still a lot of people going missing. Did you hear about that story a few weeks ago? Just this year alone, a lot of kids have gone missing. I think it was in Cleveland, Ohio.
In Ohio,
like
yes.
Ohio, yeah. Get Out was a documentary. That's all I got to say. I'm researching that, and people are like, well, they're runaways. Yeah, but a lot of runaways end up being sex trafficked. That's the thing.
Right. And the numbers that they were talking about was incredible.
Incredible, yeah, and way more than any other city, so it doesn't make sense. So yeah, something's going on there.
Okay, well, hey, as always, I'll be on the lookout. You take your time, because whenever you do release something, you can tell a lot of time and care was put into it. We will be airing this latest release of yours after the show concludes on QuiteFrankly.tv, and also for everybody to go and sift through your larger archive. The link,
Rumble and BitChute.
There you go. The link to your Rumble is in the description of this episode, so hopefully people click through. And yeah, anything you want to leave us with, my friend?
Hey, I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this after show.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Bye.
There you go. There is Jay Meyers, fresh off another doozy. So, ladies and gents, we're going to take a really quick break. After intermission, we come back, and I have a couple things, a couple of extras to throw your way, and I'm going to read your super chats. You have time to go to QuiteFranklySuperChat.com, send me some thoughts to read on air. You can also throw a few thoughts in your Rumble rants, and of course, the native gold pills on QuiteFrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole, pilled.net. Send over those gold pills. I can't wait to read those. Yes, don't go anywhere, or else you'll have to eat the bugs.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome.
Quite frankly.
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 We all support quite frankly.
Not quite.
Quite frankly.
Let's go, Brandon.
Quite frankly, in Roma, Italia.
Quite frankly. You going on Frank's show tonight?
I want to get a Coke. Can I get a Coke?
So everybody watch, quite frankly, with Frank.
Quite frankly.
How dare you?
In college, I knew word for word and could sing along with Sweating Bullets. Love that song. You know, Megadeth, I never really, outside of like Symphony of Destruction or something like that, I really just never got into it. And not because I don't think that they you know, the musicianship isn't great. I don't necessarily care for Dave Mustaine as a vocalist, but, you know, still, I mean, look what they've done. Great stuff. Also, Thomas Hake is something else. My first Meshuggah song I ever heard was The Demon's Name is Surveillance. Sounds like two Browning M250 cals going off for 4.5 minutes. So much big dick testosterone. Oh, there's a lot there. Now, I never saw Meshuggah live. The guys, everybody went to go see Meshuggah and Strapping Young Lad together on the night of my prom. When I went to go to the prom, Anthony, a couple of my other buddies, they went up to Poughkeepsie to see Meshuggah and Strapping Young Lad perform together at the Chance Theater. And I missed that one. But we got to play with Strapping Young Lad a couple of years later, which was nice, at the Chance Theater. But Meshuggah, I have not seen them live yet. You know, as far as, do they have, well, I don't know. I've played, you know, very popular songs, like popular in the metal world. I don't think anybody else out there has been listening to Meshuggah. Anyway, good stuff. Very, very amazing drummer. All right, let's go into the Rumble rant, see if anything is there. Everybody's chilling in Rumble, a nice little crowd, but no rants. I can't believe it. On Pill.net, where they're always very active, Robert Sarnes, thank you so much. Porpoiseful, thank you. Sean Joe, Chai Possum, NJSF, Sean Joe again, Jesse 81138. You are all wonderful. Now, let me throw this at you for your consideration. Here is a BusinessInsider.com article. This is from September 21st of this year. Okay, it's the day, my brother's birthday, and the day that I left for Jay Gulinello's health retreat. And I ate bull testicles for 4 days straight. Japanese... Just kidding. It was only a couple of testicles, and it was about 2.5 days. Japanese researchers say that they used AI to try and translate the noises of clucking chickens and learn whether they are excited, hungry, or scared. Researchers think they've found a way to use AI to translate the clucks of chickens. The Japanese researchers say their AI system could help understand the chicken's emotional state. The study has not been peer-reviewed, and the researchers acknowledge limitations to their methods. Now, you can. This is not a very long one at all. Here's one paragraph for you. If we know what animals are feeling, we can design a much better world for them. Choke told the New York Post. Choke, I guess that's one of the doctors there, did not immediately respond to the insider's request for comment made outside of normal working hours. So they're talking about how you can get on into the mind of a chicken. How can you create a soothing voice inside the chicken's head to alter their world? Now, this is from a couple of months earlier, a couple of months before the Business Insider article about the AI dipping into the heads of chickens. And this is from 4chan. So it's just a little bit of food for thought, okay? It's not a LARP or anything like that. It's just some food for thought. I think it's worthy of consideration. This is from June 9th of this year. After watching a certain species of bird for long enough, humans have been able to monitor certain sounds, calls, and alerts. If you were to record those sounds and play them back, it's possible to have a conversation with that bird or animal. I'm not saying that I believe 100% that we can have conversations with animals or even that we understand the recorded sounds completely. I'm trying to get to you to envision a scenario where our brains can be blasted with MRI waves, and just like we can record the sound of animals, they figured out how to record the energy of our brain waves and whatever energy our brain waves make. Just like we analyze the sounds, an AI is used to monitor the signals our brains make after doing certain activities and typing certain stuff. This gives the AI power to write the firings of our brains into readable transcript. With all the targeted satellites, cell phone towers, and electronics, they have mental mapping of certain areas. The last part, we're talking about mental mapping. That's outside of the very, to this point, primitive things that they have available, like we were seeing on January 6th when Jake Tapper was bragging about how you can actually track cell phone clouds of, people walking from Trump's speech to the Capitol and all that stuff. They're pretty much acknowledging they're following you and they're watching us, and all your conspiracy theories are true. So, but now we're talking about they have the ability to create mental mapping of certain areas, just based on how some of the, asking the question, I guess, based on how this technology can actually already interface and pick up on active human brains, which, as we know, are electrical mechanisms, bioelectrical mechanisms. The last part is the scariest. We can play the recorded sounds back, possibly tricking the bird into thinking one of its own is talking. Imagine once they know what the language of your brain speaks and they start sending you signals, thoughts, and actions. Such as, have you ever had a thought and wondered where in the world did that come from? Have you ever been mid-conversation and blanked out on what you were going to say? You probably have been the target of them sending MK Ultra mind control signals or bombarding your mind with frequencies in order to get it to blank out. This, in combination with weather modification, has brought them onto the steps of Babel, and they are bringing about the demise of others without care. One man or one woman's opinion? One schizo's opinion? What do you think about that? So the reason why I paired those two together is because the Business Insider article before, and then of course that one really makes you think about what Project Bluebeam in a mainstream sense has all been about. It's all been about the light show, the light show that they want to put on to fool some dopes out there who don't know that this basic technology exists. But what if that light show that is Project Bluebeam is only the beginning of what it could mean? We often wonder if it would ever be possible to fool people. We tend to disregard a few points, especially of 8 billion people on the planet. We're still a minority, even though we are a growing minority. And what of the ability to project thoughts, voices, emotions remotely? Memories. It becomes a much deeper sensory experience at that point. So, anyway, let's take some calls to end the show for the next 15 minutes. 914-595... No, sorry, old number. 914-200-0269. Have you been mind-controlled before? You can call in on that as well. But we only have 15 minutes. So you must make it good. I feel a sneeze coming. There's a sneeze coming, and I don't know where it is. It's in there, kicking around somewhere. 914-200-0269. First one up, 517. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Wow. All right. Thank you. This is the Monday night dude again. I've got a story to share.
Wait. Who's this again? This is Jesus driving the minivan?
I don't know. Is that? I mean, I feel like that's too long. I need to be more concise. Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Well, listen.
Sorry.
Again.
Keep it short.
Again, yes, please. Couple of minutes
Okay.
at most.
Okay. June 9th, 1999, me and a friend of mine, after my high school graduation, we were hanging out, partying. We went to visit a cemetery just down the road from where I grew up as a child, hanging out, visiting a friend who was buried. It's like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. We've been staring at the stars and seeing all sorts of crazy pinpoints, lights. Oh, what's that? Is that a UFO? Maybe that's a UFO. We're sitting there talking crap to them. And then we decided to, like, all right, it's about 2:30, 3 in the morning, the witching hour. We're going to go and take off. And we lost his vehicle in the cemetery. We walked up and down all the roads in the cemetery leading back to the main road. Did it twice. Finally found his truck in a spot where we had already walked through. It was not there. We're sitting in the vehicle, and back in the 90s, people still had cassette tapes, so he's picking out some music to listen to, and I got my head leaning on the window frame of his Ford Ranger pickup truck, and I'm looking up in the sky, kind of like eastward, but up, and I noticed this, like, big white light coming into the frame of in my peripheral vision. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I position myself where I'm looking straight up with my head on the window frame, and I'm looking straight at the iconic triangle, flying saucer, not saucer, but flying triangle. And it was following along the interstate north, and it was like dead silent. There was the only thing you could hear would be the consistent, unbreakable, unwavered flow of energy, like between two poles, two pillars. And there was a light in each corner, and then a bigger round circle light in the middle, and they were concaved, like going up into the craft. As it headed north up the interstate, it flew over top of 2 billboards that were lit up with 16 lights each billboard right next to each other. It lit up the bottom of this craft that was only traveling at maybe 3, no more than 5 miles per hour.
That's very slow.
As it flew over, super slow. Too slow to really maintain flight without some sound or something, Frank. And it ends up flying over the overpass, or flying over the billboard signs, and the lights illuminate this aircraft. It was only like 100 feet above treetop level. And as it goes over, it was like 100 yards by 100 yards triangular, and it was about 3 to 5 stories tall. And the texture of the ship itself was that Steven Spielberg uses for Star Wars, that blocky type of, Minecraft, texture. It wasn't smooth like Flight of the Navigator. And you could tell where the right angles and everything ended and curved. But we saw that. My buddy, he claims he never saw it. Nope. Even though he saw it, he didn't want to be considered crazy by everybody. Years later, fast forward like almost 2 decades later, sitting around a bonfire and shooting some shit with a buddy and his friend and his neighbor, and we sharing stories of crazy things. So I shared that story, and this guy that I'd never met looks at me from across the fire pit and says, dude, I don't know you from Adam. You just described exactly what my grandfather caught on VHS from his front porch, which was adjacent to the interstate highway, different vantage point. He caught it on VHS.
Did you go?
I'm not crazy.
Wow. Okay. So you and his grandfather, you saw the same thing, and that is and thank you for the. You want to give us a moniker or some kind of a name I can say? What's your name? What's a nickname?
Well, I'm on your text thread as General Zero, so you can just call me General Zero.
Well, thank you for the call, General Zero. That's what he's describing there is a massive object, 100 yards by 100 yards. If you're talking equilateral, with the triangle, and then the thickness being multiple stories. I mean, that's a gigantic thing. Hey, Rich Barris described a mammoth almost like city-sized object. And Rich is a very sober-minded guy. I'm sure that General Zero is too. 505, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Frank, hey man. So
Hey.
this is Jeff calling from Arizona.
What's going on, Jeff? Go
Hey
ahead.
man, can I make a couple of quick comments about the music you play on your show?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, so hey man, so one time at the beginning of your show's fantastic, by the way. I listen to it every night.
Thanks, Jeff.
So at the beginning of your shows, you always play the intro music.
Mm.
And one time you mentioned Stick Figure. You said, "Oh, this is Stick Figure. This is great music." And I checked it out, man, and it's one of my go-to bands. But I was wondering at the beginning of your shows, is that can you, like, you know, maybe sometimes you have something a little unusual on there, because it's always great. Just mention the artist.
Oh, sure. I'll get down to mentioning the artist, and we'll be able to play a lot more music soon because, like I said, I have some pretty great news to announce. But what I'll say is this also. If you go to quitefrankly.tv on the on-demand section, always check out the I know it doesn't help you if it's just like, hey, what is the song he played on Wednesday night show, but everything that appears on the show, all the music that I like and I put into the show's rotation to create atmosphere or just to chill out or whatever, I put it into the official, quite frankly, Spotify mixtape. So there is there's a playlist on the website where all this so Stick Figure and everything else I play on the show over the years is usually in there. So there's a lot of stuff you'll probably like.
Nice, man. Nice. Is any of that your music? What type? You're always going to practice with the band. Like, what kind of music do you play?
Well,
is that on there?
All of the music videos that we play is ours. Whenever I go to break and I play a music video, that's ours. Whether it's Anthony's solo projects or Set the Charge, that I play the drums on Set the Charge. So anything that any songs that I play on this show in its entirety is usually our in-house created music. So, but other than that, if you wanna check us out, we're also streaming on Spotify.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks so much, Frank. Hey, man, keep it up. And,
well, wait,
love
Jeff.
Your show, man.
Wait, Jeff. Before you go, Jeff, you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Before you go anywhere, since you said you're from Phoenix.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So were you down there for the Phoenix Lights? Do you remember them?
The Phoenix Lights, man. I don't. Oh, no. Yeah. Talking about like some type of UFO, right?
Yeah. Well, it was the gigantic, string of lights that appeared over Phoenix. I think it was 96, 7, 8, something like that.
Oh no, man, that was we just moved out here about 2.5 years ago from New Mexico.
No doubt.
I'm more of an Area 51 guy.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you for that, man.
Hey, thanks a lot, Frank. Take care, man.
Later. There you go. Let me see here. Sean David Morton is a guy that I wanted to speak with about the Phoenix Lights and all that stuff, and then he's still holding on, and I pray for him all the time, and I'm waiting for some updates here. But the guy's going through hell right now, and I hope he pulls through. I really do. That would be a really wonderful thing to have him back on the show, recovered, and to see him doing his thing again. That would have been terrific, and I hold out hope that it's still possible. Let's see, 823. Let's take another call. 903. You're on the air. Who's this?
Hey, just Rob.
Hey, what's going on, Rob? Oh, just Rob from the chat.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get that.
I said just Rob from the chat.
Yes, sir. I'm in the chat. I just wanted to say hey, all the way down here from East Texas. If you can't tell by my slang. Anyway, I love your show, man. I just wonder if you could possibly get Nikki back on. She's really a great moderator you have there.
Get her on.
She does her job, and she entertains everyone respectfully. I certainly appreciate her.
Oh, Nikki's the best. She is a pure OG too. She remembers the old. She's been around to remember the old studio. She has joined elite status as far as years put in. But what do you mean get her back? She's out there, no?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm just saying if you could get her on, her voice or even her face, either one. I have no idea who she is other than her name. So I heard at one time she was on a video, but I haven't. I'm not I'm not a tracker or anything, so I haven't looked it up. But if you get a chance,
Well, you know what you should do, just Rob, and thank you so much. I know I recognize your screen name. Thanks for the call from East Texas. You should definitely encourage Nikki to call in. I mean, she's the only one that can call in, but I see her having fun with people in the chat. All right, I guess 8:25. We'll do one more. 352, you're on the air.
Hey, Frank.
Who's this?
This is Captain Flint.
Captain Flint. Welcome to the show, Flint.
Thank you. Hey, I know for a fact that Voice of God stuff is legit. That's real.
Okay, what makes you say that?
Okay, so I work in the entertainment industry. I'm in live theater, like musicals, performance, stuff like that. And I have a longtime friend. He told me not to tell anybody, and here I am broadcasting it out. He works for a major entertainment company. I'm in Florida, a big one. And sometimes they have corporate events where they lease out their facilities to corporations. That's normally open to the general public during the day.
Uh-huh.
And he's an actor, and he was hired to work this corporate event. And during this corporate event, he told me about this technology where they use like a beam or a laser to specifically send to talk to somebody in the room that nobody else can hear.
Oh.
And it fit with the theme of where this corporate event was at, to kind of creep people out while they're eating their dinner. If that makes any sense.
Well, it does. It does. My question: what was the point of rolling that? Was that a very private experiment to see who they can mess with and try out the technology, or was it something that they rolled out and said, if did they come clean about what they were doing that night and that people were in on it, or was it something that a very select few group people were doing to their select guests for the evening?
They were just doing it to random guests who were there. So I imagine they told their friends, "You don't hear that?" I'm sure they talked about it afterwards. Yeah, there was some spooky. Did you hear that spooky voice? And people sitting around the dinner table with them were like, "No, I didn't hear anything."
So at the end of at the end of the night, though, Captain Flint, at the end of the night, the people who were getting messed with by the technology, they went home thinking, "What the hell was that?" They never had any closure on the subject.
That I don't know. That is a good question. I never thought to ask him that. Because if they ever disclose, "Hey, we were messing with you with a laser beam in your brain."
No, because I don't know. Yeah, that would freak me out for years after the fact. I would probably I'd probably go to a neurologist.
Right. It's very fascinating, and it comes with Project Bluebeam as well. Have you ever heard of digital mapping?
No.
It's basically digital mapping. It's like, well, in order for you to see light, it's got to reflect off of something, right? Yeah. You can't just freeze light in space and look at it. All light's a reflection off of an object. But digital mapping, what it is you think of a projector that puts up, like on a movie screen, a movie. But if you were to take that same projector and shine it on something that's very three-dimensional, say like a parking lot full of cars, it would look all distorted, right? What digital mapping does is, and this is just a wide-known technology, you can look it up, it's out there, is they use lasers to make a perfect recreation digitally of a structure, of anything, say a building, let's just say a castle even.
Gotcha.
And then they can use that in order to create an image or a film or what have you, that the projector is able to manipulate the projection in a way so that the projection will wrap around that 3D object and can make that object look like it's doing anything.
Right. I see what you're saying there.
Yeah. If you were to take that same projection and put it on a flat film screen, it would look like weird color garbage. You might be able to make out a shape or two, but once it has that 3D image in the computer and the projector is able to shine
that would be one way. So, I'm sorry to cut you off, Captain Flint, but I have to get off now because of book club. Thank you for the call, but I can see how, whereas that would not be something that is good for the silver screen, it would be great for any kind of a theatrical production, something that is being done live, and of course that is just the benevolent thing that we can think about. It could also be used in any other kind of live event where you want to dupe people at home. But of course, once the cat comes out of the bag and it's been used in a theatrical performance, then people will know that the technology exists and it can be used anywhere. That's the whole issue. Ricky Lynn says Ricky Lynn just bought a 1-month bronze tier subscription on Foxhole, which is great because now for 1 month, Ricky Lynn is going to be able to be a part of all the Sunday streams and all of the book clubs and everything else. It's a legit one. Salty Nuts says, good show. Thank you, Salty Nuts. Joe M says, here you go. Thank you, Joe, so much. Jay Semo on Rumble says, another excellent show. Thank you. Thank you, Jay. And Jay Britz on, quite frankly, superchat.com. Frank, I can see it now. Saul on the road to Damascus, and suddenly Jesus shows him a tablecloth coming down with nothing but bugs for mankind to eat. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's what I would say. No, this isn't Jesus. This can't be Jesus. Laura G says, great show. The Subscribe Star email for Godfather Book Club had no link in it. What are you talking about? Are you serious? I linked it. Subscribe. Well, I'll. Shit. What do you. I'm going to have to go check that out right now because I did those before I did the email blast today. Stowe Soup says, please accept a little token of appreciation for our boy Frank and his wonderful independent media. The one and only, quite frankly. Thank you guys and gals so much. That is all for tonight. I'm releasing the scratching on quitefrankly.tv. Now, I don't know if I hope that they're ready to do the Monday night right now, but by no later than 9 o'clock they'll be going live. So hang out on quitefrankly.tv and I'll make sure that some notifications go out. I'm going to start book club right now. I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you for everything. But did I set the end? Did I set the end up? Did I? Nope. No, I didn't. We'll be right back. Tomorrow we'll be back at 7 o'clock.
I'll catch you on the flip side.